Hello and welcome to the very first Brews and Brews podcast. My name is Dave and I'm joined today by...
Matt.
And...
Jay.
So hello guys, welcome to the podcast.
How are we doing? It's good to be on the radio waves again. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while. We used to do I think you took part on the old video game podcast we used to have.
Over on Blast Process.
Yeah. I think you may have even joined us on one or two.
I think I have been on a couple years back.
But this is our very first full podcast for Brews and Brews. So we're going to be talking about various geeky things, Warhammer. I believe we've got a couple of other tabletop games we're going to talk about today as well. But first of all, we'll just briefly introduce ourselves, our current projects, what we're working towards, and then we'll get on with the news. So my name's Dave. I have been working on an Adeptus Mechanicus army for a trip to Warhammer World we're planning before Christmas, although I'll discuss this a little bit more later on, but my army might now be suddenly changing. That was my current project. Matt?
So I've been working on my Death God. They're very nearly done, so I've been cheekily looking at what to do next year for Age of Sigmar. Kind of got my heart set on the Everchosen at the minute.
Yeah, they are awesome looking minis. A proper Everchosen army as well.
Oh yeah, pure Archaon and Varangard, about 12 models in the army. It's going to be ace.
And you'll probably paint them in about a month.
Yeah, so start a new army after that, of course.
Well, I think I'm going to be doing Death for Age of Sigmar for next year.
I'm trying not to get distracted by Age of Sigmar because I've got too many 40k models to paint.
So what's on your painting table?
So at the moment I'm working on Eldar, which I've been working on for a couple of months now before the Codex hit, and now the Codex hit, I'm really excited about Eldar again. I was working on the Ultramarines, but I parked them. Stick with the Eldar, I think.
You've always been an Eldar fan.
They were my first army, 18 years ago or something like that.
We're going to be talking about the new Craft World Eldar Codex shortly, and of course we had to have you on for this because you are the
resident filthy Xenos expert.
He's definitely a farseer in disguise.
If only.
So we'll move on to the headlines and start talking about some geeky things. Okay, so on to the headlines for this first podcast. We'll be discussing the release of Shapespire, which has been out for a little over a week now. The new warbands are up for pre-order, so we'll be talking about what we think of the mechanics. We'll also be discussing the future of Hawk Games now that they've been acquired by TT Combat. What's the future hold for Dropship Commander? We'll also be discussing Necromunda, which is now, we know when that's going to be up for pre-order. Are we excited about that? What other gangs are we going to see in the future? We'll also give an update on our trip to Warhammer World. So we're off there on December the 29th for a sort of 2-day campaign. So we'll be giving you all an update on our armies as they are progressing. The Eldar Codex is now out. So our resident Eldar expert, Jay, is going to be talking about his favourite points from the Codex. Maybe there's a couple of things that he wishes were improved. But yeah, we'll go through that shortly. And finally, we're also going to be talking about the Humble Bundle, which is now available, which is for War Machine and Armies of the Iron Kingdom. If you haven't played that game, it's well worth giving a go. So we'll be discussing that shortly as well. So, Shapespire, it's now out.
Yeah, it's been out for about a week now. It's a really good game. We've managed to have a couple of games of it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, just with the Forces out of the boxed game. There's 2 more factions up for pre-order this weekend.
Yep.
So we've got the Death Force, the Sepulchral Guard, and the Orc Force. I can't remember the name.
The Iron Jaws.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So they are up for pre-order now. There are more factions on the way. Warhammer Community mentioned today they're going to be first quarter next year.
Well, we saw a little bit of a hint on this in the booklet that comes with the Shapespire box, because it mentions Hunter Stormcast variant.
Yep, the Vanguard.
Oh, another faction of these. Right.
Yeah, and then it also mentions another Khorne force.
Yeah, and they've got a Flesh Hound, so that'll be interesting because I've got to have as many plastic Flesh Hounds as I can from the various games.
And also, I mean, as we've seen on the artwork for Shapespire, we've got a Skaven warband coming and Fire Slayers as well for you dwarf fans.
Yeah.
So now we've had a couple of games. What do you think, Matt? What do you think of the mechanics?
I really like the game. The games are very quick. You haven't really got time to make any mistakes.
No.
If you stumble over a turn and put your guys in the wrong places, you're going to lose.
Yep.
You need to be decisive. Even if it's a defensive game, there's a few cards that could be 3 of your guys stay in your deployment zone. sitting on objectives, fine. If that's your plan, go for it. If once you start moving guys out of position, you've only really got 3 turns to get them back to where they need to be.
Yeah. It's a really cool mechanic. I mean, obviously I haven't played it yet, Jay, but I think you'll really enjoy it.
Does it still feel like a Warhammer game though, or does it feel like something different? Because when you play like the old Warhammer skirmish games and different things like that, it still felt like you were rolling weapon skill rolls.
No, I would say this is a new mechanic, so it doesn't feel like...
I see it taking a lot of influence from some of the recent board games we've seen with different dice, with different success types. So I think there's 5 different facings. There's a critical, 2 different types of support icons, and then there's a hammer and an axe icon. So depending on what kind of weapon you use, in different successes will be more likely to appear depending on how many sides are on that dice.
Yeah. I mean, you get 2 starter decks with the core box. Then you also get some additional cards, and obviously once you've got a feel for the game, you can mix the cards up. So if you wanted I don't know, if you had maybe a Death Rattle Warband and you wanted to be holding a lot of objectives, you could take a lot of objective holding cards. Whereas for Khorne, you might want to go for ones where you're killing the enemy. Yeah,
I mean, there's quite a few cards where there's one for if your entire force is in the enemy deployment zone at the end of turn 3.
Yeah.
So you'd probably place objectives to maximise the number that go in their zone.
Yeah.
So you can move your guys forward.
Yeah.
And again, that's all down to the deck building. There's quite a few new cards coming in the expansions as well. So I think for your optimal list, you're going to have to probably pick up all the warbands as they come out.
Yeah, that's a sneaky way of getting you to buy warbands that you might not have really bought.
But on the other side, you haven't got the downside of random packs of cards, which they easily could have done. Magic kind of, 15 blind bag cards.
Like the Fantasy Flight
exactly.
living card games. Yeah, they're very good there.
I wonder if they
will.
will.
Know what you're getting in the box. So.
Exactly, yeah.
I wonder if they will do booster packs in the future. Do you think that could be a thing?
I'd say not. I reckon they'll probably stick to the miniatures and cards. You know what cards you get, you know what miniatures you're getting. The miniatures are really nice as well.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you've got one of the Stormcast models there.
Yeah, it's like a different kind of plastic than what I'm used to with the Warhammer models, but the detail on it is just as sharp. It's really nice. The
moulded bases are really nice as well.
Yeah, you just pop the figure off.
And then you can paint that separate. So yeah, they are very nice.
How much variety do you get in the models then? If I was to build one of these Stormcast warbands, would it just be these 3 models? Every Stormcast army is going to be these 3 models, right?
There's no customization. They're where the parts sort of clip in.
But obviously you can build the different decks up.
I've seen a few nice conversions as well, where clipping off weapons and alternate heads. So you can, if you're feeling a bit crafty with a knife.
And I suppose there's absolutely nothing stopping you from. I mean, if you take Steelheart for example, with his sort of greatsword, I've got a model that you used to be able to get from Warhammer World, which is a knight errant, I think he's called, where he's sort of holding up the greatsword. I think it's behind you, Matt. So he'd make a good stand-in for that model if you wanted to have a different looking army.
Is it 3 models in every warband, or does some model, like Skaven, I imagine, would they get more models? Or?
So the Khorne Force has 5.
Right.
The Death Force has 7. Now that's quite interesting because you only get so many activations.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to move the entire Death Force.
Yeah.
But that leaves your opponent guessing who's going to move.
Yeah.
Do you overcommit somewhere else, maybe?
You've got 4 activations. You could move the same character. Well, no, you couldn't. Once you've moved or charged, you can't move again in that turn.
But you could attack with him and then put him on defensive stance.
And there are also cards as well where it might let you sidestep, so you can move a tile even if you've already moved.
Yeah.
So, and you can get pushed back as well in combat when you're fighting somebody. So, yeah, it's a really good mechanic. I mean, I think you watched it on Twitch, and it's really got like an esports kind of feel to it.
Yeah, more so than most other Games Workshop games. I think it fits kind of the Twitch streaming thing.
The games are quite short.
Yeah. Short. You've got your hand of cards that's easily shown on a screen. It's not too busy. As opposed to a game of 40k. Where there's a lot of stuff going on.
We got mini skirmishes all over the board, haven't you? Whereas Shapespire, it's all concentrated on 2 boards, or 4 if you're playing it multiplayer. So, yeah, I think it's really good. And it's good that they're getting all this tournament support as well.
Yeah, well, there's really, really big tournament support. I think any game stores who want to run a tournament can purchase a subscription, which gives them prizes and different support, alternate cards for the warbands that you can give away as little rewards, which is a really nice touch, and more like what we see from Wizards of the Coast for their tournament. I think Games Workshop are seeing this as their big competitive sport, let's say.
I mean, the tagline is the ultimate competitive miniatures game or something like that. So
No beating around the bush then.
yeah, hopefully they'll release more warbands in the future that might bring back some old dwarfs for you.
Yeah,
Jay,
the older
or
style dwarfs or any elf type characters.
Sylvaneth maybe.
Sylvaneth, yeah.
Some trees.
See, my only gripe would be the staggered release. I think they should have released all 4 factions on day one.
I'm trying to remember now what they did with Blood Bowl. Did they have the same problem with Blood Bowl?
Skaven were out the same day, and then the other factions were a couple of months later.
Yeah.
It is a shame because you really. So it's next year when the next warbands are out.
quarter one next year. I believe it's the Fire Slayers and Skaven, but I don't think they've actually confirmed which warbands are coming out when.
But it's probably still worth picking up the existing bands for the cards then.
Well, yeah, the cards are going to. If you're playing competitively, you're probably going to want all the cards. You need the starter box as well because it's got your tiles in, all the tokens.
And how much are you paying for 3 models in your deck then?
So the starter pack's £40 for the 2 gangs, all the templates, rules, all the stuff that you need. The individual warbands are £17.50, which I think is a really good price.
That's not bad actually, is it?
Yeah.
For 3 models.
Yeah, it's like the Iron Jaws. I probably wouldn't play Orc warbands, but for 17, and they're nice models as well, and maybe I will sort of get them painted and use them as well.
Plus, they've released rules for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
So they might not be the optimal unit, but if you want to drop these in, say if you're running a big campaign with games of Shapespire and Age of Sigmar and skirmish games, you can have these guys, appearing in all these games.
And I was looking, I think that the deaf ones are probably the poorest in Age of Sigmar, but the Orcs, I saw the Orc rules as well, and they're very good. They'll be a very good unit in Age of Sigmar, so... Shadespire. If you haven't played it yet, I think most Games Workshop stores are still doing tutorials on them, so you can pick up and play. I don't think they'll be holding games in the Games Workshops like Blood Bowl.
No, but I think it will be supported like in the community. So your
Yeah.
local game store, I'm sure, will be running stuff, and I imagine Warhammer World will probably have some campaigns on the go at some point.
Yeah. So if you've played Shadespire, why not let us know what you think? What warbands are you hoping to see in the future? Send us a tweet at Sprues and Brews or pop a comment on our Facebook page. So next up on the agenda is Hawk Games.
Hawk Games, yeah. So Jay, you actually backed the Kickstarter for Dropfleet Commander.
Yeah.
Now, what was your experience with that?
Well, it was a while back now, and I can't remember having many problems. And I have been thinking now, are we still waiting for a reward or not? I think there was a delay on the space stations. But generally, it was okay, but I do know some people have had problems with them.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit of a mixed one. Some people have had no problems at all, other people are still waiting for bits to arrive.
Yeah.
Now, the game, I haven't managed to build the fleet yet, which
Neither
is really
have
bad.
I.
Which is shocking, because it's such a good game.
It's rules by Andy Chambers, who did Battlefleet Gothic. And you can see the kind of seeds of Gothic in the rule set, even down to the way the rule book's laid out. It's very reminiscent.
The portrait, yeah.
So it's a really, really good game, and it's good to see more space combat games because they are brilliant. Now, unfortunately, I think because of what's happened on the Kickstarter, it's obviously had some kind of knock-on effect on the popularity of the game and other factors with, managing their stocking levels and stuff.
Yeah.
Which has not been great. However, TT Combat, who I believe are a spin-off from the Troll Trader online store. They do a lot of...
like bits.
Scenery pieces. I think they picked up Rumble Slam, the kind of wrestling miniatures game. They announced the other day that they had purchased the systems. So the guy who does all the miniatures, he'll be coming on with them and will be still producing new stuff. Because a few new ships, I think, on the way that I think you might have seen.
Yeah, the destroyers.
So both Dropfleet and Drop Zone Commander will be continuing under their kind of helm, and then there'll be a third game coming on the way. Now they haven't said what that is, so whether we see, I don't know, a 28mm skirmish game perhaps, or we've currently got the Epic analog and the Battlefleet Gothic one. So there's a few different ways they could go, I suppose, with the third system.
Yeah, I always like the look of it. I like yourself, I should really get around to building the fleets. I mean, you had a couple of games, didn't you?
I've had some games of it, yeah. I really like it. I'm a big fan of Battlefleet Gothic anyway, and it's quite similar to that. Although I think it does improve some of the Battlefleet Gothic got a bit with the blast markers everywhere, so you can get a bit. I can't think what the word
busy?
is. A bit busy. Whereas Dropfleet doesn't have that. We haven't played many games. I think we've had 2 or 3 games, but the models and the rules, it was very good.
I imagine it's what we would have seen if we'd have had another edition of Battlefleet Gothic.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which I think they've still got on the horizon, isn't it? But I think it's been delayed.
Yeah, well,
There's other things going on.
Obviously, the specialist games wing of Forge World, I think they'll be looking at all the games going forward. Obviously, we've got Necromunda this year, Adeptus Titanicus next year. They haven't announced what they're working on after that, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's Battlefleet Gothic. I think there's been rumblings of it set during the Heresy, so you can do, Marine sprues and then work from there.
Yeah. Then you could always come into the current age of Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, I suppose it comes down to they've got limited kind of production capability, so if it does well, then they can put more resources there.
Yeah. So do you think the future's looking better for Dropfleet now, or
it's never a great sign when things like that happen, but it does show that obviously TC Combat are going to be giving them support, so I imagine they'll want the game to be successful.
It does sound like they're going to invest.
Yeah. And the guys responsible for creating the rules and the universe are still there, so you've still got that.
Yeah, so it's fingers crossed, because it does look a brilliant game.
Fantastic. Right, well, I think at this stage we'll move on to the latest release in Warhammer 40k, and that's the first Xenos army book.
Oh, they're the first. They are the first.
They are the first Xenos army book. I mean, we've obviously got the Tyranids coming soon, but no, we'll focus on the Eldar. So, Jason, you are the Eldar fanatic in this room. Are you happy with the Codex?
I really like the Codex. I think it's brilliant. I mean, I thought the Index was okay, but I felt a lot of the units in the Index were a bit overcosted, and that's been fixed in this book. And probably the most important thing in this book is all the points cuts everywhere, but there's been a lot of videos online I watched where they were reviewing every unit and all the points costs.
I think that's something we've seen in pretty much all of the codexes, bar Mechanicum. I think the only one that haven't had massive points changes across the board.
No, there's just a couple of minor rule changes.
Where Eldar, I think, have had probably the biggest changes, I'd say, points-wise.
Yeah, I mean, I think there must be a handful, 2 or 3 units that haven't had a points cut. So it is good, and like some of the points cuts are quite good. Like the Spirit Seer down to I can't remember if it's like 30 odd points cheaper now. I was a bit, when I saw the Warhammer community, all the traits come up online, I was a bit disappointed that there was only 5. Didn't seem to be, a lot of them seem to be ones I've used before. So like the -1 to hit Raven Guard trade, and Alpha Legion I think have it as well trade. Yeah. But actually, when you look at all the stratagems and the Warlord traits, it's a really, really fluffy codex, I think.
Games which have encouraged you to use one of them as the basis of your own craft world as well. I think there's been a little bit of backlash on some of the Firestorm free cities where it needs to be painted this way, and then they kind of backtracked a little bit. Where I think we've been encouraged to pick which trait would fit your craft world the best. Now, obviously, Jay, your craft world isn't in the book, so what have you been using?
Yeah, so my craft world is Imlock, if that's how you pronounce it, the orange and grey scheme. So I had a look through the traits, and I thought the Ulfor one probably suits them best with the 6+ sort of ward save. So your vehicles can take the Spirit Stones anyway, and it's the same effect really, just so you save yourself 10 points on a vehicle, but it sort of gives you that impression the vehicles are well made and have a bit extra resilience.
What we've seen with your Death Guard, Matt, that little extra save.
Well, yeah, for the Death Guard, it's a 1 in 3 chance of not taking that wound.
Yeah.
Now put that on something really fast and killy, like a Eldar, I don't know, Fire Prism or something.
Yeah.
Then you've 1 in 6 chance of negating every wound it takes. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is, and you can take a lot of units in the Eldar book that have a lot of wounds and high toughness now. The Wraith units have had the point of extra toughness, so back to toughness 8 more Wraith Lords, which I love. And I have a lot of Wraith units in my army, so it works very well on them as well. Gives them an extra save against your las cannons and whatnot coming their way.
Yeah, which could easily ruin your day.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
So what would you say, is there anything you've been disappointed by in the Eldar Codex?
The only thing I have to say that I was a bit disappointed by, well, 2 things really, and only 2 things, so that's good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, the first one is the battle focus. So this is a bit of a funny. It used to be where you could move, shoot, and then move again, or move, and then shoot. And because a lot of the Eldar troops are quite short range, so your Guardians are only 12 inches on their guns, and it was quite handy to have the extra movement, shoot, or move and then get back into cover, or move out of charge range. They've lost that flexibility now. They still have battle focus, but it basically just lets you fire assault weapons without the -1 to hit after you've advanced. So it works with rapid fire as well, but I can't think of any rapid. I'm not sure who's got a rapid fire weapon in the Eldar book, and it doesn't work on heavy weapons. So it basically just means Guardians are a bit faster, Dire Avengers are a bit faster getting to objectives and can still fire at full. I mean, when they do fire, a full squad of Guardians can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But it means you can't move out of assault range, and they're only toughness 3, and there's a lot of things out there, like Matt's Death Guard army, which drops them to toughness 2.
See, speaking of Death Guard, it does seem a little bit weak in comparison to the Death Guard equivalent, which has been able to shoot twice at an increased range for the rapid fire weapons.
Yeah.
And they're able to move and fire with their heavy weapons without penalty as well.
You have got your firing twice fire prism though. That's cool.
Well, I mean, the fire prism, that's the star of the show, really, I think. It can fire twice now if it moves 8 inches or less, so that's great. But then the real trick for the fire prism is to take at least 2 of them or 3 of them, and you can use one of the stratagems to basically reroll hits, reroll wounds, and you can keep your fire prisms out of line of sight, so it's a very cool stratagem. Two command points, I think that one is.
That's not bad. So in 7th edition, Eldar got a bit of a bad name due to being ridiculously powerful.
Overpowered.
How do you feel this book stands against the other recent releases in 40k at the minute?
I've had a couple of games with them. I think they're in a much better place now than they were in 7th. There were some units that were just so cheap and so powerful, and it sort of ruined. It was bad for the person building the list, because I felt if they wanted a decent game, they couldn't take the units they enjoyed playing. In this book, I don't think it suffers from that. I don't think there's any real standout, strong, overpowered units in there. They're all quite tough. The Wraith Knight, for example, I think it's probably still a few points too expensive compared to like an Imperial Knight.
Would this be the second point that you were?
This was the second thing that I'm not happy about, really. Yeah, it would have been nice to see the Wraith Knight. Really, I think it would have been handy if the Wraith Knight just got a 5+ invulnerable save. I would have been happy with that, I think.
Just give it a bit more resilience.
Yeah, it can get a 5+ invulnerable save, but you have to give up one of its shooting weapons, and that's something the Knight doesn't have to do.
No, I mean, we did discuss this the other day. The only thing that is obviously a bit of a bonus for the Wraith Knight is it has the tag for the craft worlds.
Oh yeah, so it does
whereas
get
the
trait.
Imperial Knights, although it has the Questor Mechanicus keyword, you have to spend command points if you wanted, for example, have canticles on it. So there's plus and minuses, but yeah, you are right. The Imperial Knight does at least have a 5+ invulnerable save, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not used the Wraith Knight yet. I'll have to try the Wraith Knight out. It might be fine. I don't know.
It's a nice model.
Yeah, that's the shame about it. It's such a good model.
I suppose one thing that you haven't got in the book is a Primarch equivalent. We've seen Gulliman, we've seen Mortarion, who are both amazing on the tabletop.
That's a good point, actually. They could have done something with the Avatar there, perhaps.
Have we seen many changes to the Avatar?
The Avatar. So it has some stratagems you can use with it. And it is a solid HQ, I think. I mean, you do find as well, like, a few of the benefits they get and the advantages they get, they sort of do counteract each other a bit. And, you know,
right.
So, for example, the Avatar, I think, has like a fearless bubble or a morale plus bubble. But then the Biltan trait already get the extra leadership.
Right.
So you think, well...
Doesn't really work.
Can't find the Avatar.
Are the free models from the not the Triumph, what was it called?
Oh, Ynnari.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not in here at all. And you can't... You can take a Ynnari detachment, but they won't benefit from any of the Craft World rules. So the Craft World traits like the Alpha 6+ save, they don't get any of that. They also lose the Battle Focus rule. There's another rule, Ancient Doom, which is like a fluffy rule for fighting Slaanesh, and the Path of Command, which is an Autarch ability, which is a bit like your Space Marine Captain reroll type buff. So they lose access to them. But obviously they do benefit Ynnari if you were building a Ynnari army, because obviously all the points have come down for the Craft World.
And I think fluff-wise that fits, because the Ynnari and Craft Worlds they are different factions in their own self now, which I think is good. We'll see some variety to our forces.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it does leave the door open as well when they eventually get around to releasing the Ynnari Codex. If they do, you can add some new Eldar units there. I mean, there's not really been any new Eldar units in this book apart from the Bone Singer, which has now got rules.
Yeah, well, he's not in the Codex, is he? You can download the rules for him off Warhammer Community, or they will be coming with the model, which I believe you have ordered.
I've ordered a couple of those, yeah. I love that model.
Fab.
And yeah, I mean, some of the aspect warriors, they're still the old sculpts, really, quite old. I mean, if you go back to the warp spiders and the swooping hawks, they're really old models now.
Though, on the other hand, they are still brilliant sculpts.
Yeah, they've aged well.
But if you look at the Dire Avengers, I think they're one of my favourite aspects. I mean, there's some really nice minis, but yeah, they kind of started and stopped at those when it came to aspect warriors, which is a shame.
So I have read online some people think that maybe the aspect warriors will get looked at again when Yunari, or maybe there'll be some new Eldar type warrior.
I think with the way the book's coming out now, we could easily see just randomly one week a new kit for a faction.
Yeah.
They're not bound to the codexes anymore.
No, and they always give them the rules, so even if they create a brand new aspect, you never know.
Yeah,
they could introduce rules and such.
And there is precedent for that, so...
So all in all, a great book.
All in all, I really like it, yeah. And Eldar Psykers, they'll be seeing the table a bit more, I think, because, I mean, these are a lot cheaper now. The Warlocks, the Spirit Seers, the Farseers, all had a points cut. So you can get them into your detachments and start throwing around some more psychic powers.
How many shurikens out of 10 would you give it then?
I'd have to give it 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
Only dropping one, I think, for Battle Focus and the Wraith Knight.
So we've got Tyranids coming up next.
They are not far off at all.
No, now I'm very tempted to pick the book up myself, although I'm not building. I have got a very small Tyranid force that I would like to return to at some stage in the future. Apparently it's going to be quite a good codex.
Yeah, I think Carnifex in particular had a massive revision now. There was a little preview on the community site where they're bringing back some of the old Carnifex builds, like the Screamer Killer, based on the old 2nd edition model. So it'll be interesting to see them. I think it's obviously been dwarfed by a few of the newer models coming out since that kit. And I think they want to have it a first and force again on the battlefield.
Yeah, that's a shame. I remember back in third when you saw a Carnifex
you were scared
down the
weren't
board too. And
but now they're not so...
Not with this era of Knights and Wraith Knights and... Yeah.
It'd be good to see them going toe-to-toe with Knights and such. And they're getting a new start collecting box as well, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
One Morlock and...
Gene Stealers and the Broodlord. Yes, it looks a really good box.
Yeah, so that should be quite good.
Is that this year then, Tyranid Codex?
Yes, this year.
November, I believe.
Yeah, and then we don't know what's coming then. They've been quite good at hinting, like, when we've had a couple of codexes and said, right, now your next codexes are going to be X, X, and X. So what do you think is going to be next?
Is there one more this year then, after Tyranids?
I've lost track. There's either one or two left this year.
I think they've just got Tyranids this year, haven't they?
I'm sure there's 10 coming out this year. I'm not sure what number we're up to. So part of me says Tyranids is number 8.
Oh, right, so we could have yet another 2.
I think we'd see 2 quick, just book releases.
Yeah, because there's not... I mean, with Necromunda on the horizon... Once they get into December, they like chucking out the hobby bundles and stuff, so I can't see them bringing... So who do you think there could be? Who's recently had quite a few models in...
Thousand Suns, I think, is a quick, easy book. All the kits came out just before the end of the edition with the Wrath of Magnus expansion. So a book for them will be a nice, quick release. Necrons, maybe? They've got fairly recent plastic kits. I think the whole range is in plastic now, isn't it?
And that would... I think one of our friends, Dan, mentioned about... I think they're the only ones left now in the... Oh, no, we haven't had Dark Eldar yet, have we?
No,
index.
Dark Eldar, Necrons, and Harlequins, and Yunari in the Index 1, is it? Or Index 2. And then in the other one, if we've got Nids this year, that leaves Tau and
Tau
Orcs.
don't really need that. Don't need new models.
Tau are a popular faction though, so I could see them getting a lot of support. But again, like you say,
their own Tau dice.
Tau dice. It's a pretty much plastic range. There's a few resin kits kicking around, but most of the
little
plastic.
flyers, jump back things, insects,
and then whether we see some new factions next year, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully.
There's been hints of Arbites, but I reckon we'll see them first for Necromunda.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on Necromunda in a moment, so that could be where they're coming in. But yeah, if you picked up the Eldar book, if you like it, dislike it, let us know your comments using the various social media channels. Okay, so next up is a little known game called Necromunda, which is returning.
One of my favourite Games Workshop games of all time. We've had a little taster of it recently in Shadow War.
Yep.
But this is going to be a brand new edition built on 8th edition with some changes. There's a little glimpse of a designer article on the community site, and I think there's going to be different activations and stuff. So I think it will be quite a different game.
There's a video actually on the official new webpage where it talks about how to play the game, and you have stuff like weapon skill and ballistic skill, so 4+ or whatever. But then there is parts about obviously like you have wounds and you can damage part of your limbs and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean I never played Necromunda the original, but I heard some very good things. Did you ever play it, Joe?
No, I've never played Necromunda.
So it's always meant to be like a more detailed version of the core game.
Yeah.
So you can get injured. There's rules for knocking people off gantries.
More of a Dungeons and Dragons type.
Yeah,
game.
it's kind of not as much as Inquisitor, but certainly more role-playing-esque. You could easily have someone GM in a game, which I'm sure we'll probably do at some point in the future.
Yeah.
And then the box is up for pre-order on the 11th of November, I believe.
Alongside the book for the rules for using standard 40k scenery, which I'm a little bit disappointed by them releasing it as a separate entity.
I'm not.
But you have done, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same as Blood Bowl with the kind of like league rules are in a separate book back when it came out. But if it's following that model, I mean that book was only a tenner, wasn't it, for Blood Bowl? So hopefully we see a similar price point for this.
Yeah.
Though the board game version of it, it's set in this kind of sewers beneath, so it's basically Zone Mortalis style rules.
Yeah.
The tiles that come in the box are exact duplicates of the Zone Mortalis tiles as well from Forge World.
Yeah.
So if you had a couple of £100 lying around, you could get the Zone Mortalis tile and play it that way. I think the best way to play it is going to be with the Sector Mechanica scenery, though.
Definitely. That's like traditional Necromunda.
Yeah, lots of different levels, dark alleys to hide in.
What I did like about the board game version, though, is you have little scenery pieces. So, like, there's a beast layer, and you've got, like, blast doors and stuff. So, it's not just like the Horus Heresy games where you've just got tiles.
Yeah.
You've actually got little bits of scenery there.
And I think it's actually using the same core rules as well, which is really good. It's not as if it's a dumbed-down version for a board game. It is. If you learn how to play the board game version, I say board game, this kind of Zone Mortality version, then you'll be able to play the multi-level scenery one. And you get 2 gangs in the box as well.
Yeah.
So we've got the Goliaths, who are the big brutish looking guys, and then we've got the Escher gang, which are the super agile, stabby, slightly psychopathic female faction.
I'm pretty sure they put I'll just try and load it up now. On Warhammer Community, they've already hinted at the gangs that will come next.
Yeah, so it's the gangs out of the original game. So Cawdor, Van Seer, I think, was one.
Just load up
Deleek, and I can't remember the last one. But they were all out next year. I think, again, the first quarter next year, I think they said.
Let's have a look.
Is this Specialist Games then, or is this Games Workshop?
It's done by the Specialist Games Studio, same as Blood Bowl is.
Right, okay.
But it'll be available in Games Workshop stores.
I can't find where it was now. But yeah, there was about 4 or 5 other gangs.
So they were the base ones out of the rulebook. If you look on the website as well, you can't download them yet, but you'll be able to get the rules for all the old Necromunda models as well. So if you've got an old gang from back in the day, you'll be able to use them straight away, even while we're waiting for the new plastic kits to come out.
I wonder if they'll do a made-to-order for them.
It wouldn't surprise me, because they've done the same for all the Blood Bowl stuff. We saw the Chaos Dwarves up for a made-for-order. And they've said they want to do some new factions as well, and all the old ones they did, so I think it's going to be quite a well-supported game.
We did briefly talk about the Arbites earlier on.
Yeah, they were in the old version of the game. I can see them being a brilliant kit, especially if they have some kind of 40k crossover.
Yeah.
Even if you can take a small detachment of them.
Yeah, you may get the War Scroll equivalent in the
Yeah,
data
I think
sheet.
that'd
You could use for Astra Militarium or something like that.
I mean, these guys are very much... They're very Judge Dredd kind of influenced.
So you used to have the Cyber Mastiffs.
Yep, Cyber Mastiffs. The equivalent of the police in the 41st millennium.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't necessarily see an army of them marching to war.
No.
But say if you had a planet with a Gene Stealer cult uprising, you'd probably be more likely to see them than the Astra Militarium or the Space Marines.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a good chance that if they get Necromunda rules, we'll see something for 40k.
And to build on that, there was obviously the rumour engine where there was like a model with an eagle.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And they also mentioned it might have been could be in the upcoming White Dwarf. There's a mention about obviously Gene Stealer cults were finally given their own army, and then I believe the Arbites are mentioned.
Yeah, they are.
So that's another hint at we're planning on
Which is exciting. I like seeing these new factions, even if it's a small faction or being represented in a different game rather than the mainline one, just to see this stuff that we've heard about for years in the fluff.
Yeah. No, it should be really good. I mean, we'll obviously talk more about Necromunda once it's out and we've had a game or so, but it does look like a good system.
What I will say, the plastic kits look absolutely brilliant. If you go to the Necromunda website, there's a couple of videos from Duncan putting together the kits. The heads haven't got any hair on. They're separate hair pieces, so you can have modular hairstyles on your gangers, which is just ridiculous levels of awesome.
Yeah, well, it makes... I mean, you mentioned about Shapespire, maybe that's one disappointing thing, is that they're all static poses and stuff, but it sounds like Necromunda, you're going to have lots of customization.
Yeah, a quickly segue in here as well for customization. The new elf team for Blood Bowl is the first multi-part kit with optional parts. So
the face masks,
don't they?
Yeah, so it's more like a traditional kit rather than they're not really push fit, are they? But low model count, simple poses that we've got in the older Blood Bowl kits. So I think with all the success Specialist games have had with that, I think they're able to start bringing out some really, really nice kits now.
Catering for the modeler.
Yeah,
not just the gamer, yeah.
Right, so we've nearly come to the end of the news, but we'll just quickly talk about something that was actually on our webpage a few days ago, and that is that Humble Bundle have got a new Iron Kingdoms pack that you can purchase.
Yeah, so Humble Bundle have had quite a few decent role-playing game and gaming in general book packs, haven't they?
Yeah.
We had the Warhammer roleplay one not long ago.
Yeah.
Before that, I think there was a Doctor Who role-playing game.
There might have been, actually, yeah.
Did they have Pathfinder at one point?
Pathfinder, yeah. So, the latest one is Hordes, isn't it?
Hordes and War Machine. I know quite a few years ago now, Jay, we dabbled in a bit of War Machine.
Yeah, it was a very good game, actually. Quite fast-paced, sort of tabletop miniature game, low model count.
I'm always a big fan of big mechs, and they're called Warjacks in War Machine, and it was all about you had your commander who was like the most important person in your army, your Warcaster, that's it, and he issued basically activations out to your Warjacks. So I mean, you could still use them if they were outside of his bubble, but they weren't as effective.
Yeah, it was quite a tactical sort of.
It was because you didn't want to put your
game.
You didn't want to put your Warcaster too close to where the action was because you wanted to keep them alive. Because am I right in saying if your Warcaster died, that was the end of the game?
I think it was one of the win conditions was to kill the Warcaster.
Kill the Warcaster.
In fact, I think that might have been the only win condition.
Yeah, but they were really good. They were really good minis. Some of the on foot models were a little bit misscaled. I remember you having those good mages.
Yeah,
they were quite small compared to.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, I forgot about that. It was all about the mechs, really, though. You could build big armies of it, but I'm not sure the game lent itself to.
Was it not Cypher?
Signar.
Signar were like they had like they were powered by electricity.
Well, that was one of the options. You could go. They had different sort of almost like themes in the force, so you could go for an electric type Signar army. I think they did have other options like the troops infantry type one as well.
I used to have a Kadar force, so they were like Russians, weren't they, basically? So they had big, massive, old-school, steam-powered mechs.
That's cool.
That weren't agile, but they were brutal. They were just hit them hard, sort of thing. They weren't as fast or as elegant as like the Signar, but they were still really good kits. And then you also had like a more alien-y kind of race. And you can mix and match them with Horde as well, which were like monsters.
Yeah, I mean, I never played it myself, but I did pick up a few of the kits. They did pirate undead themed guys, so
mercenaries, yeah.
Yeah, so built a few of them just for fun, really. Looking at the bundle, there's loads of stuff available, including there's vouchers off the physical starter boxes as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So for the $1 tier, you can have 50% off a battle group starter box.
Wow, it's a good deal, isn't
it? Too many to list, loads of books. The top tier one gives you a third off their latest board game as well.
Is that the
Undercity, is it?
Oh no, I've not seen that one before. There was one. I can't think what the name was now.
I think there's a download code on there as well on the upper tier for the game that they released for PC.
Oh, brilliant!
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if you're into War Machine and Hordes, I'd definitely pick this up because you're looking at. Let's just see what the current price is for the top one.
It was about $15.
Yeah,
but that gone up.
$15. So call it £12 for a pile of obviously digital downloads, but put them on your iPad.
They're a mix like the RPG and the tabletop game that we played, all the rules and such. So
yeah, I mean, if you just want to play the tabletop game, you're looking at 76 pence for the rules. So that's definitely worth doing.
Wow.
yeah, that's really good.
So there's about 10 days left on that, so there's a little bit of time left.
It's definitely I might revisit it at some point in the future
Yeah,
because you didn't need to have big.
No, that's it. I think it worked better with just 2 or 3 mechs.
I think if I remember right, you had about 4 warjacks. I had 3, something like that. And what you could grab your opponent, couldn't you, and rip their arms off and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, damage charts on the mechs.
Yeah,
it was quite a fun game actually.
Yeah. So yeah, if you head on to Humble Bundle, all the depending on how much you donate, I don't know if you've ever purchased anything on Humble Bundle before, but you can choose how much go to the developers, how much go to charity, and the main charity that's attached to this one is Special Effect, who I actually support as well. So they're a very worthwhile charity to be donating money to. So yeah. To wrap up this podcast, we'll briefly go over, we mentioned at the top of the podcast that we're aiming for a 40k campaign at Warhammer World on the 29th of December, so we'll have lots of images and battle reports leading up to that as we're testing out our armies, tweaking our lists. So we'll just quickly have a sort of an update of where we are. So Jay, do you want to kickstart us off?
Yep, not doing too bad. I've probably got about 1,500 points painted, so another 1,000 to go. And this is just trying to decide whether to take a super heavy, like a Wraith Knight or a super heavy Grav Tank, or just pad it out with more regular Eldar, which is where I'm leaning at the moment. So at the moment, this week I'm working on my Wraith Guard, get the Wraith Guard finished, and next week I want to start working on some of the vehicles, getting the tanks done.
Awesome.
Well, I've been hammering through the Death Guard. I'm sure if you keep an eye on our Instagram feed, I've managed to get quite a bit of it painted.
You have. You're a machine when it comes to painting.
Yeah, it's there's 5 models left to paint, and then I think I'm there with the 2,500 points.
Do you think you'll have time to finish those 5
Ooh,
models?
I might struggle to get those last 5 finished. I've probably painted this ever-chosen army by the time I've done that.
I've been painting here while we
You just can't stop.
I've really enjoyed doing them. I've had to tweak my list slightly because the Blight Hauler seems to have gone AWOL.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if it's out by the time we go, I'll get that painted in a couple of days.
paint it in the car on the way up.
Yeah. But I've modified the list. I'm going to put the Blight Drone with the mower for grinding down any Xenos scum.
Xenos scum.
Well, I mean, you've had the most practice with your Death Guard Codex you've had for a while now. So you've had a few games in 8th edition. And you're enjoying the way they play?
Yeah, they seem really good. Mortarion is really strong, but he's often struggled to survive the battle. Just over the amount of firepower that goes into him.
He's a bullet magnet.
He really is. But, hey, while you're shooting at Mortarion, the rest of the Death Guard are doing nasty things to you as well.
Yeah.
It's like Jay was saying about the Super Heavy earlier. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. You've got something that's obviously very powerful, but it's a lot of points. So is it worth maybe taking more bodies for playing for objectives?
Yeah.
I do think Mortarion and Gulliman are definitely worth taking. It wouldn't surprise me if there's points increases in the chapter approved at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think they're a bit different than regular super heavies. Gulliman is a Lord of War, isn't he?
He is a Lord of War,
They're a bit cheaper generally, I think, than them. And they're like a force multiplier effect. So
Yeah.
Gulliman buffs a lot of the army. Mortarion, he does provide a buff, doesn't he? Or a debuff anyway, at least. Whereas regular super heavies like your Knights and your Stormlords, they just do one thing really. They're good at either soaking damage or doing damage.
Yeah, I definitely think Mortarion should be a little bit more expensive. I think Gulliman needs to be quite a bit more expensive for what he does.
Yeah, we had a game the other day with Gulliman, and he is very good. Those rerolls are very powerful. And it depends. You put your Hellblasters next to him, or your Repulsor next to him, and you're rerolling plasma or las cannon shots. It's very good.
He hasn't really got that much of a weakness. He's got a pretty average invulnerable save. He's got a good standard save. He can come back after. He's got 9 wounds, and he's got a chance on a 4+ coming back to life once as well. And his sword, I mean, that does 3 flat damage, and he gets 6 attacks or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would, even if he didn't have the sword, I think just the reroll bubble he brings around him is that's the most valuable part of him, I think.
At the recent GT, I think all of the Imperial forces, regardless of being Space Marines or not, had Gullum in the list. So, I mean, that's probably a good sign that he's very strong. Speaking of Gulliman, though, you've gone
Yes.
through quite a few lists, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah, I've on our website I've been putting battle project updates on my Adeptus Mechanicum army, which I've really enjoyed building and painting and using, and they're really good lists. I would have preferred a slightly better codex, but still, there's still a good list. But unfortunately, I still have a lot to purchase and paint before December. So realistically, I think I'm going to struggle with a house move and such to get that army finished. But what I do have is a Space Marine army that, although it needs painting, I've got enough there to build a list around.
Now, Dave does have experience with painting Ultramarines army in about a week. I think you managed to do it for Horus Heresy.
Horus Heresy, yeah, I did do very well then. And if I look back at those models now, you can tell I rushed them. So I've made a start. I've done a test model for my Marines, which I'm already happier with than my previous attempts at Ultramarines. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be the list I'm going to be taking to Warhammer World, which does mean I'm changing army again.
Fully Primaris, though, isn't it? Primaris
Fully Primaris, led by Gulliman, and it may even feature a Thunderhawk.
Ooh, exciting.
I think that would be very suitably awesome.
That might deal with Mortarion.
That might deal with Mortarion, yes. So, but we're going to have more battle reports and stuff on the website as we're practicing with our armies, building up to the 29th of December when we go to Warhammer World. And we'll also, in the future, be talking about what scenarios we're going to play. We're going to have all those set up.
Yeah, there's a few more armies as well. There's other armies.
We've got Lee, he's a little bit torn between his Dark Eldar and his Emperor's Children at the moment, but he'll be taking one of those. And we've also got Mike with his Orcs, and Brett with his Blood Angels. Yeah,
so it should be good. Obviously, if you're down there on the 29th, feel free to say hi.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to getting some games on. We're thinking a campaign structure, some narrative games, building up to a massive apocalypse game on the second day. So that should be fun. Hopefully, we'll see some rules for that in the chapter approved as well.
Yes, some rules for big games, apocalypse games. So we're there from 29th and the 30th. We'll be at Warhammer World. So yeah, like Matt said, come and say hi if you're around. Yeah, great. Well, thank you for listening to this podcast. We would love to hear from you on what you think. You know, what would you like us to discuss in future podcasts? Any ideas on I don't know, features or topics or anything like that? And if you disagree with anything we've said or agree with anything we've said or have any feedback about Shapespire, the Eldar release, the upcoming Necromunda pre-order, let us know. We've got various social media channels you can tweet to us, Sprues and Brews. You can go on to facebook.com/Sprues and Brews and comment on there, or feel free to comment on the website as well. We've always got our ears open. So thank you once again. We'll speak to you very soon.
Take care.
Bye.